American Jobs Act proposed by President Obama is the creation of an infrastructure bank, which would pay for roads, bridges, and other projects all around the country. The president suggested a joint public-private partnership to fund this bank, but of course getting the Republican-controlled House to approve much of what is on the revenue side of Obama's plan will be a challenge, to say the least. Labor leaders are now proposing an alternative. They suggest that using union pension funds to pay for some of these projects that put their members back to work is a good idea. This is a move that worked in New York City in the 1970s, and it is something that my next guest thinks could work again. Teamsters Local 237 President Greg Floyd is joining me now from New York City. Greg, it's great to see you.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you for having me on.
So explain how this worked in the 70s and what your vision is for it today.
Well, in the 70s, the New York City pension funds came to the rescue of New York City. Exactly what they did was they put money into the city, and I don't remember everything that was done, but I want to say that the pension funds were credited for rescuing the city out of a financial crisis that they had at that time.
So now this time around, your suggestion is that the unions are sitting on a certain amount of money that's probably pretty considerable, and because you've got members who are just dying to get back to work, that you would be able to use this money as an investment. Do I have that right?
Well, you have it right, sort of. Let me tell you what it is. It's not that we're sitting on money. The New York City Pension Fund is to make sure that the money's there to pay out the benefits for our members.
Right, of course.
But what we do is we invest money in different projects. And what we're saying is, why can't we invest in America? We have to make sure the investment's sound, that there's going to be a return coming back to the pension fund, and that these are good investments. And I think we can find some projects that are good investments that fits these categories that we can invest in. We want to invest in America just like Dwight Eisenhower in the 50s built the interstate highways and created a lot of jobs. We think a program like that is needed, and it's been decades since we've seen something of this nature. Okay, so basically what you're saying, though, I mean, there's a possibility here of risk, right? I mean, isn't there maybe a safer way to do it? Like, what about bonds, for example? Well, that is a good way to do it, and I was going to suggest that also. If the government puts out bonds for the projects it wants to have done, or the state, or the city, we can also buy bonds, and over the period of years, we will also be guaranteed to get the monies back because we invest in bonds also.
Right.
What I'm saying is, we, the unions, all over the country, whether you're public or private, have pension funds and funds that we invest in. Why can't we collectively come together to create a solution for these problems and fund these projects? Because I know that there is no posse, there is no cavalry coming to rescue us. As a matter of fact, those hoofs you hear in the background and that cloud of dust you see on the horizon just may be a posse. Things are about to get worse. Okay, so this is interesting because in one way, it could actually improve the standing of labor, potentially. I mean, you've got a dual problem, it seems to me. You've got a 9% and change unemployment rate, which of course hurts your members, and that's a problem. But on the other side, you've got a PR problem, which is to say you've got people like Governor Cuomo and Mayor Bloomberg and other folks who are saying pension costs are just too high, and the problem is public employees. Like your members, right? Like your members, like labor writ large, I should say. So if you guys invest and you help improve the situation, it's also sort of a feel-good story to improve your standing in the eyes of the public, isn't it? Well, it may be a feel-good story, but we're more focused on helping out this nation because we are Americans too. See, people forget, they talk about public employees as if they were some aliens coming from outer space. We are citizens, we pay taxes, we want to contribute to society, and wherever we can help out, we would like to do that. So we want to be part of the solution, not be considered the problem. And I have to say, in the early 90s, no, actually it was the early 2000s, both the Governor Pataki and Mayor Giuliani at the time used the word overfunded. The pensions were overfunded at that time. So what they did was they made an agreement with the unions. They reduced the pension payments. They did not put money into the pension system. So in 2001, we had a financial meltdown, which meant less money in the pensions, and the pensions lost money. And in 2008, where everybody lost money, whether you were a homeowner, whether you had jobs, you started seeing the jobs disappear, and things really got to the point where we said this was the worst financial crisis in our history since the Great Depression. We forgot, or we were never told, what created these problems. And those two public figures, Mayor Giuliani and Governor Pataki, really contributed to the debt that the pension systems have now. And no one's talking about that. But I don't want to go back and blame people, but I just want people to understand that...
You just did. What are you talking about?
I want to tell... Listen, I want to tell the full story. The full
okay.
story is this crisis was not created by the unions. We didn't wake up today and say, you know what, we want to create an $8 billion deficit for the city and the state.
Let me ask you this. Do you have, I know that you're talking to the AFL-CIO and Dennis Hughes, the head of that organization, about this possibility. Do you have any idea about how safe it is? In other words, is it a safe investment to put money from your pension? Because you got pensioners, you got people who rely on this money, and people who are counting on this money when they retire. You know, who knows what's going to happen to Social Security by the time they get to that point. Some people who are already there. Do you know how safe it is to invest in a bridge or a road or a tunnel or whatever you might invest in?
Well, here's the thing. We will know how safe it is once the consultants and our advisors look over whatever deals that we decide that we want to look at. And not all deals are safe. And believe me, we don't invest in everything. And we only allocate a certain amount of money to these projects. We must guarantee that the benefits will be there to pay out all of the members that belong to the pension system. So that will never be in jeopardy. But there are some funds that we do invest, and instead of investing in, I'm going to say, India or China or Germany, we can invest right here. See, we make investments, and we have consultants that make sure that these are good investments. And we can make sure that that is a good investment right here in America. Okay.
So obviously you can't make these decisions by yourself because you're not operating in a vacuum. You've got other labor leaders that you have to convince. Unfortunately, we're almost out of time. I do want to ask you one question, though. Everyone today is looking at New York 9, the congressional district. You have sent about a handful or so volunteers down to help David Weprin. Do you think that labor and GOTV, as we like to call it, get out the vote, is going to carry the day here, or do the Republicans, who seem to have the passion and the excitement, if you will, on their side, because let's be honest, David Weprin is a nice guy, he's not a very exciting candidate, for lack of a better word, do you think that it's possible that labor will help carry the day for him?
Well, we're going to make it closer than what it could have been, and we're going to really try to carry the day for him. But we have to keep in mind, you have the candidate, like you said, David is a very good candidate. He's a very nice person. But you also have to look at what's going on right here in the country. And when we have a financial crisis, people look to make a change. Sometimes the change is for the worse. We don't know. But people are angry, and this is just another district that is angry. We had Anthony Weiner there, and he was very popular in his district. How do we know this is not a vote against the Democrats for throwing Anthony Weiner under the bus? We got to look at that also. But there, in Anthony Weiner's district, Anthony Weiner was very popular, and people wanted him to remain the congressman there. It was the rest of the country that decided that they didn't want him to be a congressman.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we are going to, of course, be watching very closely when those polls close at 9, see the results. In the meantime, I want to thank you, Greg Floyd, for joining us. It's always good to talk to you.
Thank you, Liz.